Reserve. The root of all our evil, it begins with the Federal Reserve. Hey, yeah, well, let's go back in time when everybody was so proud of a man.
I'm Tommy Salmons. This is Year Zero. Today, Jon Hartmann joined me to talk about Jungian psychology, his journey through reading Carl Jung, the essence of meaning in the writings of Carl Jung, and we discuss a little bit of Christianity towards the end and kind of our views on Christianity and what we find attractive about it, especially in the modern age when so much seems to be mystical and magical, and very little of it is grounded in materialism or what we may have considered reality just a couple of years ago. So we talk about that kind of experience. Jon, probably like myself, I've had people tell me this before, is definitely don't judge a book by its cover kind of person. He is a professional plumber. He also paints and reads a lot and is very well informed on many different things. He's not a public speaker, and he's a little bit shy about that and insecure about it. But we had a great conversation, and I don't think you'll have any trouble following Jon. You'll probably have more trouble following me because I'm always stumbling over my own words. So, RyanBunting.com for all of your graphic design needs. Go to RyanBunting.com. Ryan Bunting is a great anarcho-capitalist and a great libertarian. He's also a great graphic designer. He is the one responsible for the design of my podcast logo, if you were wondering. So go to RyanBunting.com and see what he has to offer. And check out his book, Project Manicore. It's a pretty fucking good book, man. And we need more fiction writing. And I really appreciate what Ryan did. I'd like to thank Tom Burton for the music, as always, because it gets me more credit than I deserve, since I didn't write it. And if you're not regularly visiting the Libertarian Institute, go to libertarianinstitute.org and check out all the great writers and podcasters we got at the Libertarian Institute. That's libertarianinstitute.org. It's me, Scott Horton, Patrick McFarlane, Kyle Anzalone, Keith Knight. There's a bunch of us over there. So go to libertarianinstitute.org and check out what's going on over there. Enjoy the show. Recording in progress. So I had this whole bit coming into this, and I done forgot what it was because I went out to eat with my wife and I had a couple of beers. So I'm here with Jon Hartmann, who's just an incredible guy. If y'all haven't had a chance to talk with him or listen to any of the interviews he's been on, he's just incredibly full of knowledge, and he would make you believe that he's just a plumber, but he's so much more than that. So what's up, Jon?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
No, I'm happy to have you on, man. It's absolutely a pleasure. The thing is, like, one of the things I've learned, and I guess kind of I'm a reflection of in this whole podcast like sphere, is never judge a book by its cover, right? Because I'm just a truck driver. I just sit around and drink beer and read books and think about stupid nonsense that nobody else is thinking about, and then I talk about it and people listen to me, and I'm like, why are you listening to me? I'm talking about shit you've never even thought about. But at the same time, it's I think Reed says it a lot, that there's not enough of us blue collar guys out there representing the thought patterns and what is actually going on in the world and the way that blue collar guys actually approach and think about things. So I love having you on. especially like staring at your artwork. Like I'm sitting here, I'm still lost. I'm looking at these two up in the top right now, and so
Oh, you see the alien in there?
yeah,
Little guy right there.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm like, wow, I want to be there. It's like, it's like almost like Aztec meets Terrence McKenna.
That sounds pretty cool, actually. I think you're probably right on there. You know, my wife's family's from Guatemala, so they would prefer if it was Mayan and Terrence McKenna.
We can go with Mayan.
But yeah, no, it's, you know, I don't want to say it's the same because it's not.
I would not object to mine. And well, and in those two paintings, like right next to each other, you have the red blocks that kind of like feed into each other.
Right. That's exactly what that is.
Oh, okay.
these are two. These two right here are it's one piece together.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of,
you got the alien kind of viewing into this little thing right here, and he's kind of making up like, you know, whatever he sees there.
Right.
Which I know is not good for podcasting, but
I guess I'll call Justin Campbell and have him do the video for us.
Sorry, I'm going into all these details, and people are like, "What the hell is he talking about?"
Yeah, like what the fuck's going on? Yeah, no, but that's what drew my attention to it with the red blocks that kind of like feed into each other. That kind of they mesh together and become one. You know, even in the seam, which is really pretty cool. So like, I really dig that. So yeah, if I knew how to screenshot on my computer, I would put it out there as the thumbnail, but I don't know what I'm doing here. So we're just going to pretend like that part of the conversation never happened.
You could check it out on Instagram. I got all this on Instagram. So
no shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll make sure you get all those plugs in. So,
right.
All right. So you've been on quite a few podcasts, talking about a number of different things. And I wanted to talk to you because you've been following me for, I don't know, probably about a year. Like, I guess I noticed you about a year ago. Like we were engaging and you were talking about my podcast and things that were coming out. And I was like, and then I was like, oh, that was the guy that was on such and such a show. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I did a lot of stuff with Popular Liberty. Andrew's my guy. Like we got at each other.
You've been on Pete's show as well too, right?
No, I've not been on Pete's show.
No. Okay.
Just pretty much just Popular Liberty. I talk to I'm always in like the King Pill chat and that kind of thing.
Okay.
I mean I'm in a few different places, but not too much. Not ever Pete's show. That would be kind of cool though. But yeah, so like I did a series with Andrew from Popular Liberty about the art of war. And then we did another one that we're actually kind of, you know, every so often we do another chapter of the book how to win friends and gain influence, or
influence people. You know, yeah.
But the Dale Carnegie book, so I did a lot of stuff with him on that too.
That's right.
But I'm always repping Andrew because he's my guy. He's a real smart motherfucker.
I like Andrew a lot. I do like Andrew a lot. Sometimes he's like, it's like, okay, dude, you got to calm down just a tad, just for me. Like, just kind of like tone it down just a bit, dumb it down a little bit. So I know what the fuck you're talking about. But yeah, no, I like Andrew a lot. He's a really nice guy. And he lives right up the road. We're gonna get together here soon. I probably after the holidays, I'll try to make a point to get up there and meet with him for lunch or something. Because he's about 2 hours away from me. So
ain't too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Not for Texas. Texas is huge. So yeah, we're gonna definitely try to make that happen where we can hang out a little bit. But yeah. So, but I started noticing you a while back, probably about a year ago, and you've been a regular listener to my show, and I appreciate that. And
no problem.
Seeing some of your opinions and some of the things you talk about. Watching a few episodes of your show that you did for a while on YouTube. I don't know. Are you still doing that?
You know, I kind of just go with the flow of like, you know, I'll do my art for a little bit. I'll do my podcast or my, you know, videos on YouTube for a little bit. So I'm not, it's not that I'm not doing it. I just don't do it regularly. You know, if something comes up and I want to talk about it, then I do it. Okay. That's more for me than anybody, to be honest with you. because I want to make sure that like, I talk a lot about the meditation and the mindfulness kind of stuff. And what I want to try to do with myself was like, okay, because this pandemic started, which is why I started the podcast.
Right.
Or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, I can see this going mentally bad for people. The longer this plays out, who knows how long this is going to go. But, I was kind of looking at it like, okay, I'm going to start making these messages for myself so that I can, if I get in a bad spot mentally, I can refer back to these because I'm in a good mood right now. I'm a good spot right now,
Right.
And if people stumble upon them and it can also help them, then that's even cooler,
Yeah.
But I really did it for myself.
Right. Well, the one that really sticks out to me is the one on meditation. So I'm glad you brought that one up because people, from what you say, now I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I'm no expert on meditation. I'm too high strung for that shit. That's why I drink so much. So the people like have troubles, including myself, like kind of shutting off. And so like you and I are both creative people. Like we're both in that creative space. That creative mind is very possessive. It's very encompassing. It really will take you over and pull you in all kinds of ways. Sometimes there will be things that you don't even want to think about that will be popping into your head that you don't have control over. You can't stop it. It's like this flow, this steady flow of information, like rolling through your mind. And you're like, I want nothing to do with these thoughts. They're horrible. They're disgusting. They're despicable. This is not me. Like, please go away. And so you talk about embracing the experience of the thought.
Yes. It's a very important thing to do.
Well, get into that a little bit for us.
Well, for me, it started with being comfortable, trying to be comfortable. Everybody wants to be comfortable. That's just human nature. But what you understand is you can't always be comfortable. And there's going to be situations that you find yourself in where being comfortable is just not a possibility at all. So what you got to do is you got to kind of try to find comfort in the uncomfortable, because if you can, how do I put this? If you can sit
that seems like a skill in and of itself. That seems so foreign to my mind.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is foreign because we're not taught to do that. We're taught to shy away, to try to make everything comfortable all the time. We don't ever want to suffer, but you suffer regardless of whether or not you want to. So rather than run away from it or, put pillows all around you so that you can't, mental pillows, we'll say, so that you don't have that uncomfortable thing. What you end up doing is, trying to just kind of look at it. Okay, why does this make me feel uncomfortable? Am I really uncomfortable or is this just my knee jerk? And the more you start kind of down this road, you start realizing, first off, like you were talking about, like your feelings kind of just overtake and you can't stop thinking about them and everything. Once you're able to sit with them and look at it and be like, okay, this is why I feel this way right now. It almost takes the bite out of it. It's like, a dog that, has no teeth. It could sit there and bite you as much as it wants, but it's not going to affect you because you've sat there and you've looked at it and you've understood it on a visceral level. If that makes any sense.
No, it does make sense.
So that's, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking, man. And I mean, we've all gotten into these weird places in our mind. I say we all have.
Hey, if it's just me and you, that's good.
yeah. Like me and you, I know you have like, I think I don't know if it's an artist thing or if it's a natural thing. That's what I don't know. I've never had this conversation with another person before, right? I've never talked to somebody about this. So I don't know. I don't know if the person who's not artistic, who's not creating constantly is having some of these thoughts. I don't know. There was I don't know. You remember that show Castle? It was
No.
All right. So like it was about it was a detective show, and they hired a novelist to help them solve murders, right? And one of the things he said is the only people that have these thoughts and these ideas are serial killers and novelists, right? And I'm like, maybe, like, I don't know, like, are the thoughts that are occurring, because I have this thing, like, I said it the other day in our Signal chat, and I'm sure you saw it, that people don't have thoughts have people, right?
Yeah.
That's not an original thought of mine, right? That comes all the way up from Aristotle. Like, that's decades, centuries old. But so I really feel sometimes like whenever a thought pops into my head, it's a living entity. It's not something I can control. It's something I have to be aware of more than anything. And I don't know if you get that. Like, I don't know if other people get that, where it feels like there is something else placing these ideas or thoughts in your brain. It's coming from an outside source somewhere. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, do you ever feel that way? Or am I just a lunatic and need to be checked in a mental hospital? Like, what's going on here?
Well, I think about this a lot, and depending on the day, I'll tell you a different answer. And that has to do with me.
Don't tell me what I want to hear. Just don't do that.
No, I'm not going to. I don't know if I am or not, but basically what I'm trying to say is, like, your mind is a constantly wandering thing, right? And you don't always have the thoughts, like if I think something yesterday and then new information comes around and I'm like, well, that's obviously not true, or that's this or that, once you have a new experience that, so I can't really say that I think that it's not me, but I can't say for sure that it is me with the thoughts, I've been reading Carl Jung recently, within the last few years. And, the more I read of him, the more confused I get. Because he talks.
Yeah, no shit. Look, right here, right next to me.
Oh, that's funny. I got it sitting right here. Same one. That's Ion or Aeon, however you say it.
Ion, yeah.
Ion, yeah. So that one, that one's cool because he's talking about that. That's the researches into the phenomenology of the self. So what he's really talking about there is like the anima and the animus, which is like the male and female opposites of your psyche, and they're like archetypes. Every basically they have to balance each other out. And if your anima would be the female side of a male, and if it's out of balance with the masculine side of yourself, then it'll start controlling you, and that's more of like your thoughts and emotions kind of thing. It's the emotional aspect. The anima for a male is the thoughts and emotions.
It's like the archetypical mother that they kind of imagine that the man like grasp onto. The other day I posted something in the Signal chat and I had used Mary versus Aphrodite as an example, and the reason I did, because Mary was the opposite of a devouring mother. She allowed Christ to die, right? If you've ever watched that movie, The Passion of the Christ, have you ever seen that? Okay.
I saw that in the movie theater by myself.
Yeah,
no one wanted to come with me.
The most emotional part of that whole movie, like, at least for me, was whenever he fell and Mary knelt down next to him. It was just like that love of that mother. And then she had to let him go. Right? Yeah. Like, she didn't try to hold him there. She didn't try to make it better. She was just like, I'm here. And he's like, I'm about to make the world whole. And she let him go. Like, I was like, wow. Like, that's powerful. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, that's not only a mother that loves her son, but that's a mother that trusts that she raised her son properly.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's like big. You know, that's a big deal. And so, like, that idea, like, just, man, talking about it kind of tears me up a little bit just talking about it, because it's such a huge idea that I have to trust. My mom has said this to me before, on different situations, when we were talking about different things, and she's like, I have to trust that I did my best with you before you left my house. Like, once you're gone, I have no control now. I have to have enough confidence, enough trust in myself to know that I did everything I could and taught you the best I could before you were out there in the world. And that's a big fucking idea.
Oh yeah. It's it's funny when you think about this kind of thing. I know you're a parent, right? Yeah, you think
I'm a grandpa, dude.
Oh boy. You're a tad bit older than me, I guess. But
not too much, probably. Like, I'm a young grandpa. I'm 42.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, you ain't much older than me at all.
I'm not old. I just feel that way.
I'm 36. I just feel that way. Yeah. But with your own kids, right? Like, could you, like, when you think about that kind of thing, it's like, could you do that? Could you release your kid?
Could you watch that suffering and let it go?
Right. And
no father would. No father would. That's why it's so important that it was the mother there and not the father. Because no father would. There's no father that would watch their child go through that.
No, I'll tell you right now, my dad would be swinging at me.
Yeah, but there's something about the mother releasing that bond. And I'm not saying that fathers are more nurturing to children at any stretch of the imagination. There's something about that bond between a mother and a son that a father, it's very much more brutal. It's very much more barbaric and in your face. And the father would be like, this is how you handle it, son. Right. And he would come out with his fucking, AR, or some shit. Right. So but the mother being like, if this is like what you must do, like just that release of the motherhood onto the world is such an incredible example of the good mother, right? Not the devouring mother, but I mean the good mother. From an archetypical example. Then you have like the Aphrodite, kind of, like really throttled fucking chick that'll fuck you up. So you got like the two different sides of it. It's not like, I don't know if you started listening to that Uber Boy podcast, right? I've been hooked on that. Yeah. So when they were going through Ion and they're talking about the anima and the animus, and they like get caught onto the anima, and they're talking about like the mother-son relationship and the marriage, kind of aspect. Yeah. I mean, it's really intriguing whenever you really break that down. And I think what Jung did in describing this is he broke down what Freud was saying. Like, cause everybody kind of has this like really like bestial like fucking idea of what Freud was actually trying to say about killing the father and fucking the mother. But I think Jung really like got into the psychology of what it is, and then it's not literally killing the father and fucking the mother. It's realizing at some point, like, and I think it was in the ego that he talks about the father a little bit, but it's realizing at some point that the father is not the perfect man, Right? And understanding that, living a life that would mimic the father would be a mistake, because the father has made mistakes, and that the mother, that breaking those ties from the mother. So you're killing your image, your perfect image of the father, and you're breaking the ties of your perfect image of the mother. Because if you don't break those ties with the perfect image of the mother, then you end up like masturbating to that image for the rest of your life and never having a successful relationship.
Right, because you're always comparing the woman to your mother as opposed to like the things that your mother saw.
Not even your mother. You're comparing her to an ideal.
To an ideal, right?
Yeah.
Right. You're putting the idea of what your mother was, or a mother, on, you know, the perfect mother as you saw it, as on a pedestal.
Right. Yes.
And you're not anybody that doesn't that any woman that comes close or doesn't come close to that is not good at all. So you absolutely have to break ties like that for sure. Because that's how we progress, right? And the killing of the father's image is kind of like realizing that's almost like your initiation into manhood. Once you realize that your father is not this perfect superhero, all knowing, all, you know, just all encompassing like superhero, that's when you really understand that you don't understand anything.
Yes.
But you know, you start learning that, okay, you know, if they were like this, especially like if you look at it like from like your parent perspective, like my dad, or how you look at your dad, it's like, you know, when my dad was 40 years old when I graduated high school. I'm 36 and my kids are 6 and 8.
Yeah.
And I can't fathom what my dad was going through, you know, and I, you know, it's like, you think about it and you're like, okay, in one aspect, he was an absolute superhero, you know, and the other aspect is like, well, he wasn't much smarter than me. So what am I doing wrong?
Right.
You know, it's like, you can use that to kind of look at yourself and be like, what, you know, what do I need to do? If that makes any sense to you. I'm just kind of spitballing here. Like, if you think about it, you're like, okay, well, I know I have to do this. What do I, you know, what would my father have done in this situation? And then if you look at him like he's not this all-knowing, all-perfect person, you can see, okay, well, he messed up here, and this is why. It's kind of like going back to like how I was saying, you sit with your uncomfortable thoughts and feelings and everything. Is like, if you don't understand those, you're missing a whole half of your personality. Right. So that's what, you know, killing the father is to me, is, you know, finding yourself, or at least, you know, putting yourself on the road to finding.
It's the rites of passage. It's becoming the man. It's becoming the father in your own right. Whether
or not you are at the time.
Right.
You know, whenever you realize it, you know.
Yes. And that's why for millennia there were rites of passage ceremonies, right? Because you had to put these young boys through this test before their father died. You know, like you had to get them to the age, you had to get them to manhood before they were ready, because they would die if they had to wait.
If they weren't, right. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these things, you know, they're lost on our generations, you know, on these newer generations. We don't understand what people really went through. We don't understand why things are the way they are. You know,
I was reading an article a while back. I can't remember exactly how long ago it was I was reading this, but it was talking about people in Russia, in northern Russia, in what was it, Siberia? What is that? Is that Siberia up there in northern Russia?
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, maybe I could be wrong. It starts with an S. I know that much. I think it's Siberia.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, so like it's talking about them and the hunter gatherer mentality that they live in, And it was measuring their happiness, and they're happier being hunter-gatherers in the frozen tundra of Siberia in northern Russia than Americans are living in the wealthiest country in the world. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, what is it that they know that we don't? What have they discovered that we haven't? And there is an aspect of the metaphysical, maybe, that they're aware of, or at least sensitive to, that maybe we aren't, because of the comforts of our lives here in America. But one of the things I was thinking of, and this gets us right to the heart of what you and I said we wanted to talk about on this show. So I'm getting there. I was not flirting around the subject on, like, for no reason. Like, we're getting there. We're running through a Jung kind of like psychological episode right now. So that it seemed like to me there was if you're in a situation where day by day all you're concerned about is preservation of your own life, you don't have the comfort of being miserable in your own life, you are much more likely to be centered with yourself in the Jungian sense. And when I say self, I want to be really clear. The way I look at centering with yourself is like knowing Christ. That's the way it really comes across to me. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading something wrong. Maybe I'm getting something wrong here, but that's what I'm reading. That's what I'm getting. And it feels like the more comfortable a people are, the harder it is to not only be centered with yourself, but also to know Christ.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. You know, I think in the Jungian sense, I'm not sure that he looked at Christ as like an actual real, entity. But what he did do, he used Christ as like a psychological, right? Because Christ is the archetype of the hero,
right? Of
the perfect person.
Yes.
He put himself above the whole world, or he put the whole world above himself.
Well, in that, I mean, maybe I'm misreading Jung here, but isn't that the point of confronting your shadow, going into your unconscious, meeting your anima and your animus, conquering that aspect and becoming the full self? Isn't it a Christ-like figure that you're imitating in that?
Absolutely. And that's why I said, the Christ, from a psychological standpoint, is, as I think Jung mostly wrote about, although, he could possibly believe in Jesus as an actual Jesus.
Well, apparently that's why him and Freud had their fallout, because he did, and Freud was right. Like, you're a lunatic.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, like, the archetype is, the hero. There is this person that you are. Yeah, he is we're all striving to be as he was, regardless of whether or not you believe in Jesus. Here's the other thing. Regardless of whether or not you believe in Jesus, the story is a story of how to be the perfect person.
Yes, I asked my wife one time, and my wife is an atheist, and I'm not bad-mouthing my wife. Obviously, I love my wife to death, and we get along just perfectly well. So take nothing of this other than I asked her a question, and I said, do you think that every person in this world strived to live the life of Christ, this world would be a better place? And her answer was, yeah, obviously.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, that's the perfect person. That's the archetype of what manhood or humanhood is. Yes. Like, obviously. Right. Yeah.
So, but I think, for different people, it's different things, I think that, right now we're not really, there's people that are, finding God and finding Jesus and, finding religion again in the times that we're in. But we got to understand
I
that.
want to get to that because this is something I've been dealing with, but I want to go through this conversation first.
Okay. So what I was trying to say is that I think people.
Sorry, I don't mean to throw you.
Oh, no. It's like, I didn't mean that to be a dick. But basically what I was trying to get at is that, we got to try to meet people where they are sometimes, in more ways than one. So like, although I agree, I was born and raised Catholic, and I had clergy members in my family, and we would have mass at my grandparents' house, and that kind of thing. I mean, we'd go to church too, but we had a big family, and we had everybody over at my grandparents' house for mass quite a few times. So I'm not saying this to say that I don't believe that you're right, and the way that you find yourself is through God and Jesus, but we gotta find something deeper than that for certain people. I mean, obviously we understand that that's the deepest thing there is, for people that believe in Jesus, but not everybody does. And, it's kind of like any kind of argument you have with people.
I think maybe deeper, maybe the wrong word. Maybe that's the wrong way to approach it. You need to find something that is like on a parallel spectrum that they can clasp onto.
Right.
Is that fair? Like, because I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to figure out.
Well, I think I meant deeper for them, because if we're looking at someone.
Okay. I thought you meant deeper than the story.
No. Just like deeper. Whatever. Because if they don't believe in Jesus, and you're talking about Jesus, chances are they're going to shut you down right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I was trying to say is that you got to find something that's deeper to them, that would be in our minds parallel, and then see how we can work our way into it,
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Again, that was my turn to not try to be a dick. I was just trying to clarify, because I'm like, okay, deeper than Jesus, like that's a pretty deep subject to get into. Like, how deep can you go?
Well, it depends on who you are.
Do you know something deeper than Jesus? Give it to me right now, dude.
Yeah. Well, I've had some nice experiences. But I just think that, right now it's well, you said you want to get into that later, so I don't really want to, but I was talking about, like, getting into religion right now.
Well, I think, yeah. Let's put that aside for just 1 second, because I want to talk about, like, what it means to center yourself, like because I think that's, like, so important as an understanding. Like, when we're talking about centering yourself, a lot of people think this is like some hubristic idea or being self-centered, which is completely opposite of what we're talking about centering yourself. Like, with the self being the awareness, like the confrontation of the shadow and the conquering of the shadow, and the awareness and confrontation of the anima or animus. Like, yourself becomes something bigger than what the average human is. And so when you center yourself, you are actually taking upon yourself these components to put yourself in a position that is more responsible than the average person. Do you think that's a fair way of approaching that subject?
Yeah,
it's such a big subject. I'm sorry, man. It's
no. It's all right. So can you explain? Can you say that question a little more dumbed down for me here.
Okay.
Well,
you've read Jung, so you like when you conquer the shadow, which is part of like delving into your unconscious and getting to know what yourself is. You'll never like reach the self without conquering the shadow, right?
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say conquering, because you never really conquer, but you have to understand what it is, at least
you kind of incorporate it. Yeah. You kind of incorporate it and you utilize its good for good and you relinquish its evil, I guess is what you would do.
Yeah. The crazy thing is though, that like someone that's like pure evil or like a psychopath, like serial killer, their shadow would be everything good.
Mm. Oh, that's right.
So you got to kind of look at it like, and that's the thing, it's hard. It's really hard to like talk, like to balance that. That's why it's always a work in progress. You're never gonna, Jung even said himself that you'll never be done. You'll never be done. It's a constant thing. I think the closest we can do is kind of like, what I was talking about is, trying to understand yourself. And, through meditation, that's how I do it a lot, is like I sit there with my thoughts and I try to think about how I feel, why I feel that way, and what I can do and how I can use that in my life, like in the actual material life that I'm living. Right. And I think so like if you are trying to like find this center, you have to keep everything in mind. It's like, you got a handful of, or an armful of, different emotions, thoughts, and feelings and everything. And you got to try to, sort through them and figure out what everything is. And for me, that's what Jung's talking about with the anima, the animus, and the shadow, is just really trying to incorporate as much as you can and really look inward. Like we're always looking for things to be, spelled out for us, and like we always want to try to find meaning in things, but I think what he's the core of what he's getting at is just being yourself and being as complete as you can be by looking at the inner workings of your psyche. So I
okay, so I think maybe, and I could be mistaking what he was saying, because like the way I took what he was saying was that you will never be complete until you confront these things.
Right. Yeah. And that's basically what I'm saying as well.
Okay.
It's just so I come from like an Eastern background. Like I read a lot of like, Buddhist stuff and like the Tao Te Ching and that kind of thing. So I think sometimes like when I read, especially Jung, because I see a lot of things that I see from an Eastern perspective that he wrote about. And, and I think that sometimes when I talk to people about, these things it gets, the East-West kind of gets lost in translation a little bit.
Well, I'm still working on my Eastern translation. I've been studying Orthodoxy for the last few months, but I'm nowhere near fluent. So,
yeah. Well, I was talking more like the Buddhist kind of stuff than
Well, I haven't graduated to that yet.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Told you, I'm just a plumber, man.
All right. So let's get into the religious aspect, because this is something that intrigues me, and I have my own stories, and I'm kind of hesitant to share some of the stuff. Like, I've shared some crazy shit on my podcast, but there are some things that are personal that I'm like still hesitant to share. So let's kind of get into what this is. Like, what is it? You and I actually like we crisscrossed in our messages the other day, and you sent me an article or a Substack you had written. So we were both saying the same thing about the sociological problem or the social issue, society at large being possessed by the feminine and becoming the devouring mother, but having to be aware of the tyrannical king or father that is too swift to action. What I feel like, and I don't know if I'm right here, but I feel like there is, for sure, in my own mind, the way that I'm experiencing the world at this moment, there is something below the surface acting metaphysically in the mystical realm, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And people like you and I that are seeing these things in very similar ways are being brought together, whereas we find ourselves shunning or being driven apart from those that were once allies not that long ago. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's uncomfortable because these allies or these former allies were actually really good friends. We saw an instance of this today, and I'm not going to get into the details, but you and I saw an instance of this today happening before our eyes. And it's like, okay, I don't know. It just feels like there's something else at work that's not of man. Am I just completely lost my fucking off the rocker now?
No, I think that's what happens when you're not, when you're looking for certain things to fill the hole that only one thing can. I think that when right now there's so much confusion with everything that people aren't really, they're kind of letting their unconscious sides go through the motions of what people that are in higher powers that have ways of manipulating the consciousness of everyone. They're kind of getting into the mode where they're letting people consciously fuck with their subconscious.
Yeah. And Jung wrote about this as well, the collective unconscious and things of that nature.
But so I do think that there is something going on as far like, I don't know what to call it though. That's my thing.
Right. Yes, I'm with you.
Like, do I call it,
is it a demon?
Right. Is it a demon? Is it, just, everybody subconsciously acting all together because they've been put in a situation that they find themselves in, that we all find ourselves, that the whole damn world finds themselves in.
Right.
Is it just something that just happens after you're kind of stuck in this position for as long as we have been, and you're trying to either figure a way out or just try to forget about it?
Yeah, I mean, do you have no choice?
I don't know what to call that.
Is there a point when things become so hopeless from a physical standpoint that you have no choice but to say there's got to be something bigger? Like, there are these. Well,
I think that's where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are these questions like, is that thing bigger, real? Just because we feel like there's nothing else out there, maybe there is absolutely nothing else out there. At some point, you reach the point where you've hit the biggest thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, and no matter how bad that biggest thing pisses you off or fucks you up, you have to realize, okay, there's nothing bigger out there. So, like, are we... I don't know. Like, I don't know another way of asking it other than how I asked a while ago. Am I delusional to think that all the revelations, all the prophecies I read about as a child, I start seeing these, maybe not word for word or 100% like carried out, but they're so fucking close. And it's so fucking scary at times. And it's like, I look at people I love and I adore, I respect and admire, and I hear them talking about, I see the subjects they're talking about, and I'm like, you're not even close to the subject. You're nowhere near the target. Like, what the fuck? You know? So am I seeing something that's not there? You know?
I've been struggling with that same kind of question. It's like, I don't believe I am, though. Like, I think I am seeing what is there, and I think everybody else isn't seeing it. But how do you know for sure? You don't, and that's why you have to stick with the plan. You have to stick with whatever it is that that you can find that will make you feel correct. Right? Because we all have that feeling where like we did something that we know we damn well shouldn't have done, or, we're sitting there and we have a decision to make and something in our head tells us like, hey, this is what you got to do. We don't question that. We shouldn't question that. If it feels right to you, go with it. You know what I mean? And you'll know, and the right I'm talking about too. I'm not talking about like, bending your mind to try to figure out like, okay, this is, through logic, I've deduced that this is what I need to do. I'm talking about a feeling that you get, and that you just know damn right it's the right feeling. That's what I've been doing, is just kind of going with that because, I don't know what to call it. And I don't know if I'm crazy. I don't know if I don't think I am. But, crazy people don't think they're crazy, right?
Well, and there's enough of us thinking the exact same way, right? Well,
that's the other thing. We find, is it just that we're all crazy and we just all found each other and we're all sitting there being crazy together?
Yeah, it's not, there's no providence involved whatsoever.
I mean, some people would say that, I don't know. I mean, I do know, but, how do I know I know?
Yeah. You think you know.
Well, you guys,
I think I know what I know, but I'm not sure I know what I think I know. Yeah. Like it's.
And that's why you just have to be comfortable. That's why I was saying, like, at the beginning of our conversation, you got to work with the uncomfortable feelings so that you can see clearly.
Just a few months ago, I was completely agnostic.
Yeah.
In over the last 3 months, I find myself praying the Jesus prayer 15 times a day. And I'm like, wait, do I believe in this? Like, is that what I'm saying? Why am I using these words? Why am I praying this prayer? Is this what I believe?
Right.
I go to the Orthodox. I go to an Orthodox divine liturgy and I feel something. There's something happening. And I'm like, do I believe that what is happening is an experience of God? Is that what I believe, or what is it? What am I experiencing? It's utterly confusing at this point. Like, what is happening in the world? Because I said it whenever, I'm sure you heard it, but Pete and I did a podcast a while back called Return to Tradition. And the one thing I said was like, I don't even believe in God, but if I had to choose between the COVIDians and the Christians, who I'd rather live in a society with, I would choose the Christians.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of a no brainer.
Right.
But that started weighing on me. Like, I don't believe in God, or do I? And then it got easy for me to say, okay, there's a God. That got really easy for me. And the thing I'm hung up on now is, was there a resurrection? Was there a crucifixion and a resurrection? Like, can I accept that? Right? Like, it's not hard for me to say, okay, like, I can look around, I can experience things. Like, okay, so one of the things I've been doing here recently is writing down my story, like writing down my dreams first thing in the morning when I get up.
I do that too.
I've noticed my dreams are a battlefield. There are fights, constant fights in my dreams. And it's not like, oh, these people are battling against that people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm dreaming about things and I'm fighting the dream. I'm trying to fend off those thoughts because I find those thoughts to be evil or corrupted in some way. And I find I'll wake up in the middle of the night saying the Jesus prayer. And I'm like, is it that deep? I've said the Jesus prayer for like 3 months. That prayer is not that deeply ingrained in my subconscious to be, like my go-to. But there's something in me clinging to that prayer when these dreams are coming to me. And so I can't help but like look in some of the things I've researched from my dreams, some of the words and phrases that have come to me that I have no idea where I learned to speak Sanskrit, but that's just the way it is. Yeah, and I look at these things and I'm like, okay, like this isn't normal. Like, what does this mean? I try to think of the images of the dream, what the name means, or what the words mean. And I'm like, oh, I think I got an idea. And it really feels like there's a battle of the soul and the flesh happening while I'm asleep. And it's crazy. It's freaky. It's like I wake up and I'm writing this stuff down and I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah. Well, you have the battle of the soul and the flesh while you're awake too. Not only when you're sleeping. I just don't think I was near as aware of it. That's the thing, that's the whole battle. That's what everyone's experiencing is like, what is, it's almost like, what does it mean to have a soul in the material, like why do we have a soul, but we're living in the material?
Jonathan Pajot said the other day, I think you saw me say this, that addiction is the liturgy of the devil. And
I did see that.
Yeah. And man, that has been stuck in my head ever since. And I'm just like, this is not like some new concept. Like what you feed will grow, right? Mm-hmm. And if you, and so just bear with me for a minute. Let me
yeah.
see if I feed my addiction to alcohol. Are you stuck outside, dude? I'm sorry, man. I think my dog's stuck outside. He's sitting outside my window whining. I'm not trying to be a dick.
No.
Yeah, no. Both my pit bulls were sitting outside my window fucking whining. And I was like, what the fuck are y'all doing out there? Walk out my office and the fucking front door's closed. I was like, oh, well, shit. No wonder you're upset. You want inside. Okay, so I was going somewhere. So, yeah. All right. The idea that, let me see if I can figure out how I was trying to say it. I know what I'm trying to say. I just kind of lost the way I was trying to say it.
That's pretty much anytime I go to open my mouth, so don't feel bad.
So there's this. All right. Oh, so when it comes to addiction being the liturgy of the devil, all right, that's where I was at. I've realized that the thing, if I let's say I'm doing something like that I'm doing tonight, and I'm drinking excessively and just hanging out and just like, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna like whatever. It makes it easier for me to do things like smoke more, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas if I'm not drinking, then there are other things that then I'm less likely to be doing things like that in excess. And I can't help but think that the whole idea the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, right? Mm-hmm. And knowing that these chemicals or addictions are destroying my body and that they're interrupting whatever I could be engaging in. Mm-hmm. I find myself very aware that it is of the world and not of a higher plateau. And so it's one of those things that when you start, like Mark Claire and I had talked about this. Like when you start seeing it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
It just kind of snowballs on you and you're like, oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Like this is all the stuff I'm doing. And I know like when I spend my time meditating or praying, people say they get like these messages from God and yada, yada, yada. The only thing I get a message of is all the shit I'm doing that's fucking up. You know, like that's the only thing I hear. That's the only thing I see. It's like, oh yeah, you should probably stop doing this, you fucking dope. You know? Yeah. Like,
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that though, because you should probably stop doing some of that stuff, you know? And probably. You know, however you get into it is however you know, like I quit smoking like 3.5 months ago, you know, and what I realized since I quit smoking is all the shit that I wasn't doing, you know, and all the things that I was doing that I didn't want to do. Just
yeah, that's what I'm asking. I think that's where I'm going with it. Like, it's like one concession to the passion of the flesh leads to another. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, and you find that when you give up that one concession, like you open your eyes to all the other concessions you're making. But all the other concessions feel so natural as long as that one is gripping you. Like one of the things that my wife and I stopped doing, and I know you can't tell because it's Friday and I'm drinking, but we stopped drinking on weeknights. Well, I happen to be off today, so that's why we're drinking. It's not a weeknight for me; it's a weekend. But but yeah, we don't drink whenever we both work the next day. Like we just don't. Like usually, I would come home from work. I would have 3 or 4 beers. That would be it. I'd go to bed. Like no big deal. I'm not getting trashed out of my mind or something like that every night. But I noticed a difference in my perception of the way I interact with myself. Well, yeah, with myself, with my wife, with everything. Mm-hmm. If I was ingesting that alcohol, if I wasn't ingesting that alcohol, you know what I'm saying? Like it's there's a difference there. So it's like if you engage in that liturgy, then that leads you to another liturgy. There's another form of worship that you're going to engage in at some other point, you know, just by giving up that will, like whatever will you had there. Like, I mean, you get what I'm saying there?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah. It's crazy. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, you're right. It's like a snowball effect. You know, you do one of them, next thing you know, you're doing all of them, and you don't want to do any of them. But like you kind of gave into it.
I was the other night. Like this is so fucking revealing about me. The other night, I'm doing something, and I'm cussing myself as I'm doing it, and it's like, you fucking idiot! You didn't want to do it in the first place. Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
But I'm doing it and I'm yelling at myself like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And at that point, you're almost thinking like, okay, what has a hold of me here?
Yeah.
If I can literally do this, if I can yell at myself about doing this and I can keep doing it, like it's almost like there's two of you in there.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And this is what Jung speaks about so much, is about the archetypes in the mind being autonomous beings.
Right.
And this like goes back to, but you can like take this back to angels and demons and God. Like this all like ties in, and it's like, okay, whether they knew exactly what the fuck they were talking about, they were onto something.
Right. And it's like, okay, you could look at it as angels and demons, or you could look at it as aspects of your psychological makeup. You know, they're like, I don't think either of them is wrong. You know, you can look at it almost as one and the same, like a good aspect of, go ahead.
You just clicked this in my head when you just said that about your psychological makeup. There's that study where they split the brain in half, right? Mm-hmm. And like, if you ask somebody to write something with the right hand, they'll write one thing. You ask them to write something with their left hand, they'll write another thing. It's like two different personalities dueling with each other. It's almost like those personalities during this moment are like dueling. They're like yelling at each other. They're fighting. They're battling for control of the flesh.
Yeah, because you have your logical mind, the left side of your brain, you know, the one that's involved with logic and motor skills and everything, speech. You know, that's the part of you that's cussing yourself out. You know, that's telling you, hey, don't do this. This is why you shouldn't do it. And then you have this the right brain, which is, you know, conceptualizes things, right? And that doesn't control your speech and doesn't control that aspect of your being.
It's all
actually doing the stuff.
It'll be all right. It feels good.
Doing all this stuff without even you saying it, you know, like you don't have to say that. You don't have to think that for your body to do it, because that's what's control. You know what I mean? So
right. Yeah.
It's crazy when you think about it that way too, you know. But like I said, whether it's an angels and demons, or and you're really being possessed by like some kind of demon that's controlling you in the meantime, or if it's a psychological aspect of it, the stories that we've been told throughout history are talking about the same thing, right? It call it a demon or call it a bad psychological, you know, pathology, for instance. Right. You know, it's the same thing, and it doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to be a real demon, but maybe it is. You know, treat it like it is.
Well, it was even Socrates when he was on trial, and they were asking him for his defense. He was like, "I have a demon that whispers to me."
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think, yeah, definitely. Now I'm wondering, like, if like he was calling a demon like his conscience, you know, like the little angel on his shoulder or not. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, back then the word was daemon, and it meant spirit. So he was just saying, I have a spirit that whispers to me. He wasn't saying it was evil. He wasn't saying like whatever. He was just saying, I have a spirit that tells me what I should and shouldn't do. And like, that's what I follow. That's what gets me where I am today, you know?
Yeah.
And
And we all have that, but the thing is, it's lost on modernity. We're all coming, like we don't acknowledge it as such. We turn that part of ourselves off. We don't. We're not. And a lot of it's kind of programmed out of us. We don't do it intentionally. We're taught from a young age that we need to use one aspect of our being and not and completely disregard the other aspect, which is the more ethereal aspect of it, or the spiritual aspect. We're not taught to embrace that. And because we're not taught to embrace that, we don't even really know it's there anymore. We don't call it what it is. And we don't even think about it like that. When you don't think about the spiritual aspect of it, of yourself, or of society as a whole, you really don't have much to go on, because as much as technology and as much as understanding as we have of this world, like there is an unspeakable aspect of it. There is an undefinable aspect of it.
Absolutely.
And we're cut off from that. And that's what people are wanting right now. They're wanting that they all realize, like, you can only get so far with logic.
I'm reading this book here, Wisdom from Mount Athos by Archimandrite Sophrony. There's a chapter in here where he talks about like wanting to see the mystical, like wanting to be involved in the mystical, and there at one point he's at church and the ceiling opens and he sees Abraham and David and all this happening in heaven, and it led him to be prideful, and he realized that this was an image that Satan had put in his head, right? So like you're never safe, and the reason I bring that story up is because one of the things I found myself like questioning or asking is like, if you are real, show yourself to me. Like, just prove it. Like, just show me. And then I read that story and I'm like, man, maybe I'm opening myself up to things I don't want to see. Right?
Yeah. Well, you can't fight a demon if you don't know what it looks like.
Right.
And that's the most important thing that I think we really got to hit home with people, is that, like, look, and that again, it goes back to what I'm saying about being comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Well, the road to hell is always paved with good intentions, right?
Right.
Like,
you have to walk on fire to understand.
They're never going to present themselves as evil. It's always going to be presented to you as good. Like wokeness was presented as equality, right? And then look what it's turned into over the last year, 2 years. You're like, oh, okay. Like, this isn't equality. You want to sacrifice white people now? like what the fuck? So, yeah.
Yeah. It sure seems that way sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it really
Most of the
does.
time.
It's like, okay, this is not, yeah, like you're drawing people in, you're seducing them with the good, and that you're constructing that actually has no reality in what you're offering.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like, because I mean, from the looks of it, it's just like communism masked in modern terms to me, and what you had in communism is,
beyond communism, if you ask me. I think, I think Huxley and the technocratic state that he painted in Brave New World was much closer to what we're facing than anything communism was ever able to do.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think you're right there. That's why I'm saying, like, maybe putting it in modern terms, like, because you have the people that are at the top, regardless of what system is being run on the rest of us.
Yep.
And that's what it was. It was like, okay, how do we keep our power and keep controlling people? You know, that's all. I don't care what you call it in any regard. That's what the system is. Every aspect, in every aspect, you know, there's a hierarchy, and it's like, okay, well, I don't want to turn these people off that don't like hierarchy, so we're not going to call it, but that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just a matter of keeping power and making the rest of us feel like we actually did something, you know, or that we're a part of something, or that we're, you know, and that's the scary thing, you know, that goes with anything, religion and politics both. You know, you have to kind of be all right with yourself first, is the way I look at it, at a lot of this stuff. Like, you have to be all right with yourself as far as how you think and why you think that before you can go into any of this, you know. And that's what's so good about both politics and religion, you know, is that they both tend to, for good or bad, prey on the weak. You know, let's not forget that they're both man-made systems, right? You know, and I don't, that's not to say that there's not utility in them, but we have to understand, just like, you know, coming from a political background, like, we all know what it is. It's a game, you know, it's a game of control. Now, is religion the same thing? And if it is it a bad thing that it is? I don't know. I'm probably not, because I mean, look what Christianity did in the last 2,000 years. You know, so even if it's a system of control, I mean, without it, where would everyone be?
Well, it's always strikes me that now that I've kind of opened myself up to be more honest about what I'm seeing in Christianity, in the Bible, in what people's criticisms of Christianity are, strikes me that the majority of their criticisms are about man's corruption and not the actual teachings.
Exactly. Correct.
Well, if your problem was with man, like, oh, you started.
Good luck solving that one.
Yeah, start at Genesis and work your way through it. Like, I don't know. You know.
Yeah, totally, man.
But yeah, that's kind of the way it appears to me, without getting too personal or engaged in my friends', you know, criticisms of Christianity. It's always about the way man has corrupted or presented Christianity. It's never about what the actual word or is, you know. And that's part of my attraction to Eastern Orthodoxy, which I'm sure at some point they've experienced some sort of corruption. I'm sure at some point they've experienced something that kind of pushed them slightly off the path. But their entire purpose of the Eastern Orthodox Church is to be as close to the original tradition and worship as possible. Okay, well, if that's what your goal is, let me see what you're about. That's kind of my perspective, right? And I've found that going and attending and witnessing that I'm seeing something. What it is, like, I don't know. I don't even know if man has words for what it is that I'm experiencing. But
and if we do, if you should even know them.
Right.
You know,
exactly. Yeah.
once you put a name on those, you know, it might take that feeling away.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
and so, yeah, no. So I've gotten to the point where I really enjoy that, and I'm experiencing something. It feels honest, whether, like I said, whether man has stomped on it and done some stupid shit here and there. Possibly, but it feels honest. It feels like it's supposed to be there the way that it is. And it's the closest thing that any of us are going to experience to Peter or Paul or John. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, if I want to know basically what these guys were doing, what was going on after the death of Christ, what they started doing after that death, this is about as close as I'm ever going to find. And why, if it's good enough for those guys, why is it not good enough for me? Like, why should I be like, oh, no, that's some old trad bullshit, you know?
Yeah. You know, I don't know too much about Orthodox, you know. I had some cousins that married Greek girls, so I've been to a couple Greek Orthodox weddings. But aside from that, like, I really don't know too much about it. I think, you know, I think one of the things that I'm having...
There's a book I want to recommend you. And I'm just trying to figure out where on my shelf it is. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to find it for you.
Okay.
So much of the focus of my podcast is to point out abuses of power and how bad things have gotten and the direction in which we're heading as a society. And it can be a real black pill. I've partnered up with Richard Grove to offer my listeners an opportunity to sign up to his Autonomy Course. The Autonomy Course is designed for people looking for solutions, people that want to shape their own future, people that are not willing to be at the behest of large corporations or the United States government or the banking system. The Autonomy Course is designed for those of you who wish to have complete control of the reins of your life, who are looking to be successful, to thrive and not just survive, to provide for your family by utilizing your existing skills and learning how to market and sell those skills in order to be your own boss, or learn new skills in order to leverage that into a new career opportunity. So if there's a job out there you've been trying to get or you've been wishing you could get, but you just don't have the skills for it, the Autonomy Course is the place for you to start, to learn how to land that position, to learn how to market yourself better, to gain confidence, and to be surrounded by a community of like-minded people that will encourage you and help you along the way. So use my affiliate links and go check out the Autonomy Course. It could be right for you.
Damn, where the fuck did I put it? If you could see how much of a mess my office is. This bookshelf,
I can only see it.
Everything looked pretty.
Yeah. You should see mine. Mine's like ridiculous.
Man, I got books all over the place. I have a book up here. It's called The Religion of the Apostles. I was going to show it to you. I would suggest reading that because I really it really kind of changed my view on what the Orthodox tradition was. And I just got this in today, which is cool. It's
oh, what the hell is that?
It's called The Prologue of Orid.
Okay.
And it's written by Saint Nikolai. All right, so apparently this is the Orthodox daily study. And so if you go through there, if I pull out volume 2, if I can get it out of there, I'll pull out volume 2. I can open to the month of December, and I can look at December 11th, and it gives me a daily worship and a daily read and all kinds of good stuff. It talks about a saint, and it gives me a hymn to sing and a prayer to say and all that good jazz. So
Oh, that's pretty cool. I think, you know what, I feel like I saw
it's like a daily devotional, but it's written by an Orthodox
for the
priest.
Orthodox. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we used to have the daily devotionals like all over our house. We had a few of them. You know, one in the bathroom.
Yeah,
one in the-
so that's for December 11th.
Oh, cool.
It's the Venerable Daniel the Stylite of Constantinople, and then it goes to the Venerable Luke the new Stylite of Chalcedon, then the Venerable Nikon the Dry of the Kiev Caves, the Holy Martyr Merex of Egypt, and then there's a hymn and a reflection for the day, and then a contemplation, a homily on Lot, which that's not a bad homily to read on Lot.
Hell no.
And that's it for the day. And it's like 3 pages. And it's like 3 to 4 pages every day for the entire year. Fills up.
And what's good about that is that, you know, read it in the morning, you got something to contemplate all day. You know, you can really mull all that kind of stuff over and really try to understand it and find out what it's trying to tell you.
Here's my problem. I'm reading this book. I'm reading Ion. I'm reading Wisdom from Mount Athos all in the morning before I go to work. So now I got to figure out how to fit in the prologue.
Yeah. Maybe you could read it before you go. No, before you go to bed, you might not remember it in the morning, but you might have some cool dreams.
I might need to kick this one back to right before bed. It's a fiction book. It's by James Rollin. It's really good. It's called The Blood Gospel. I was telling my wife today, I was like, you realize when you're reading a James Rollins novel, you're 260 pages in and you're not even halfway done with the book. Like,
holy smokes. Jeez. That's a thick one right there.
So yeah. No, it's a great book though. I'm really enjoying it. But hey man, let's shut her down. We're just bullshitting now. Let's get the plugs in there and shut it down.
So I guess for my art, which is what I'm, kind of trying to push right now. I'm at, it's Seven Finger Studio. You can look for that on Instagram. That's got all my art that we were talking about in the beginning. I'm also on Twitter, at Jon, JON _Hartmann, HARTMANN. And if you want to check out my YouTube, you can check that out at Mind Your Business with Jon Hartmann. Those ones come out periodically. I'm not really, if I think of something I want to talk about, I'll throw them out there. And they're pretty short. I think my longest video is about an hour, but the rest of them are, under 10 minutes, under 20 minutes, and it's good. It talks about meditation and, trying to find yourself and, just putting yourself in a proper state. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. And yeah, go check out his videos for sure. I don't even think I've run across the one that's an hour long. I think the longest one I've run into is like 28 minutes or something like that. So.
I had a good one on there. It's about, it's entitled For the Christians, and it talks about, meditation, and how it talks about meditation from a Christian standpoint. It's called For the Christians. You could check that out. Nice.
All right. Well, I think we absolutely solved not a damn thing. And
that's always what I do.
And we talked about a lot of shit though. And no, really the point of my podcast is to get people thinking about things that they can absorb into their daily lives and to move forward and try to make their lives better. And as Adam would say, become the anarch. I never knew that phrase before I met Adam, but I'm glad I do now.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. But become the anarch and, just make your lives better for yourselves and your family and move forward. I think we're covering a lot of subjects that a lot of people are finding interesting at this point in time. And, I really appreciate you coming on. So
no problem.
I'm going to stop the recording. As all y'all have noticed, he is super talkative and I can't shut him up. So I'm just going to stop in the middle of his rant right now.
You wanna be a hero, instead you're just a slave. All your good intentions took you to your grave. Your pride is how they killed you. With the flag you wave just like a fool. They promised you a mountain, gifted you a stone. They demanded that you throw it into your neighbor's home, and then seize all that they worked for and give it to the throne just like a tool. Well, as we all just stand in line and glorify new ways of being cruel, it seems to me humanity is not something that they're teaching us in school. They dumb us down all around, propaganda, their pollution. They set a cage up on the stage, a facade for all solution. They build a wall, block them all from this mental institution. It's insane. Now they're writing their own rule books and they're crossing all their T's. They're fashioning their people to all wear beggars' knees. If you want a clean drink of water, well, you must say pretty please. It's all a game. As we all just stand in line and justify these crimes done in our names, it seems to me authority and tyranny are both one and the same. Well, it's time to change the channel. It's time to set things right. Make them all rot with fear in their beds at night. Devour all their worthless souls and sacrificial right, just like we should. Of those who are to blame, and we'll stack them up like cordwood, watch them sizzle on the flames for good. Well, as we all just stand in line waiting for some kind of Robin Hood, our liberty will never be until our right to freedom is understood.